Able to see the
Okay.
screen?
Yeah.
Are you able to see the screen?
Yes, I am able to see the screen.
Right.
Your
All right.
screen.
So today we'll be able to see, the following topics called history of the application servers. Okay.
Okay.
Now why application servers came out into the market, then that part we'll be able to discuss. Then next part, introduction.
Okay.
Introduction part we'll be able to see. Then if you download completely, then we can able to see the setting up the Linux environment also.
Okay.
Right. So that is today's plan actually. Let's we see introduction to the application servers. So before application servers, what we had generally? So we had web servers, right? Before application servers.
Yes.
So what is web server? Any idea?
Um, so web server
Right.
example is our this one Apache, the JBoss, IIS, which it can take
JBoss
the
is not a
request
web
and
server. JBoss is not a web server. It's an application server. Right. So web server generally, what is a web server? A web server is nothing but what it is a server-based product. So what would be generally? It has going to be written the files whenever client requested. Okay. Example. So
okay.
on your client, on your client, in the sense, example, client means in our sense, you can call it as all browsers. You can call it as the web clients generally. So you want to access some site actually, www.acc.com, www.acc.com. In the sense, you are requesting something right on your client. So whenever you request
Yes.
generally, based on that, it has going to be written the files. That is what we can call it as, web server. So all the static content
Okay.
generally. A web server generally it may be either it may be software based or either it may be hardware based. It has going to be helps to deliver the web content that can be accessed through the either it may be intranet or internet. In the sense, we can access within the company or over the web also can able to access, right? So that is what actually
Yeah.
second point. And third point, the most common use of the web servers generally, which is used to host the websites generally. The most common use of the web servers generally, which is used to host the websites. And other important point generally, the web servers are typically written the static content only, right? Typically written the
Okay.
static content only. So what is the static content? Before that, we'll able to discuss.
Which we cannot change.
Yes,
Which cannot be
yes,
changed, right?
yes. What are the rules of the web servers generally? The primary function of the rule is it is used to gather the web pages, whenever the client requested by using the HTTP or HTTPS protocol. That is first point. And second rule generally which written the typically static content only. And third point generally, so which follows the two-tier architecture. All web servers follows the two-tier architecture only. So those are important points about the web server. So let's we see what is the static content generally. So as per your view, static content is nothing but what. So these are the documents which is already predefined on the server side and which do not change ever. Okay. Example such
Okay.
as HTML pages, documents, PDF documents, and as well as images, graphics. All those we can call it as static documents. Example, whenever you want to hit www.sba.com, then where would you go and whenever you will get the same home page, right? So
Yes. Very.
such kind of pages already predefined in the server side. And whenever client make a request, it has going to be returned based on the client's request. See, either
Yeah.
it may be over the HTTP or HTTPS. HTTP means generally hypertext transfer protocol. HTTPS means over the security. Without security, this with security. Right. So what are
Okay.
the features generally which are going to be support the web server generally? Web server it is going to support the following features generally: virtual hosting, large file support, bandwidth throttling, and server-side scripting. So what is virtual hosting generally? So virtual hosting means generally by using the virtual hosting concept, you can serve the many applications, with the same IP address, right? By
Okay.
using the same IP address, you can serve the more
Yes.
applications. That is what we can call it as virtual hosting, which is supported by the web server. And second, future large file support. See, during 80s and 80s, 85s, which does not have any 64-bit operating systems during that cases. Okay, so which will have only the 32-bit operating systems only. So that time, what will happen? Even application size is more than 2 GB also. Web server are going to be support. Web servers supported. Okay, even application size more than 2 GB also, so it is going to be served the request. Alright, that is second
Yes.
advantage. And third advantage, the bandwidth throttling. So what is the bandwidth generally? Any idea about the bandwidth?
Um, Bandwidth, the capacity of the flow, right? I mean, maybe
The rate of
it's
the rate of
internet.
the rate of exchanging the data, the how much fast you are sending the data, how much fast you are receiving the data.
Yes,
So that is what we can call it as bandwidth generally, which measures into the bits per second, mbps. Okay. So
yes,
whenever you take the web servers generally, web servers generally which may have the limit of the bandwidth retelling generally. So by default, which is going to be accept 500 to 1000 in between the access concurrently, right? 500 to
okay.
1000 requests only it has going to be access, and you can able to increase up to maximum 80,000 requests only. So in the sense, different places concurrently, end users or clients or application users can write the request up to 80,000 only. If within that range, then it has going to serve the more clients or more requests. Whenever it is going to be reached to that range, gradually it has going to leads to the network bottlenecks. That is what actually
Network
bottlenecks.
battles. Okay.
So next, that is what third feature. And fourth feature means server-side scripting language. To generate the dynamic web pages, generally we use the server-side scripting language. So these are the features generally which is supported by the web server. Let's we see generally
Okay.
in web server. I told you web server which follows the two-tier architecture, right? So what is the client and what is
Yes.
the server? In that we may have the client and server, right? What is the client and what is the server? The client is nothing but generally what will happen with the piece of computer hardware and software. So by that what will happen generally, which we can able to write the request, we will get the requested data from the server, right? That's what we can call it as a
Yes.
client. Server means generally server, if it's a two-tier architecture generally, often which is in a different machine, right? So all the services
Yes.
which generally which are going to be stores are available under the server only, which we can able to access by the way of networking, right? Through the networking, so which
Yeah.
we can able to access. That is what we can call it as client and server. The both client and server we can call it as client server mode. In other words, two-tier architecture, right? So
Yeah.
generally, web servers, it has going to be follow the two-tier architecture. What it contains the client tier and what it contains the server tier. So
Servers.
client tier generally which contains the two logics generally. One is presentation logic, second one is business logic. What is presentation logic generally? Both will hold by same machine called client tier only. See, client tier generally
Okay.
what will happen, it contains the two layers, right? Presentation layer, what it contains and what it will do generally. Presentation layer generally
Yes.
it has going to be accept the user valid inputs and displaying the outputs which is sent by the server. That only will do by the
Server.
presentation layer. And coming to the business logic generally, which is responsible for doing the data validations and processing to the data type. And coming to that,
Okay.
what is the server tier? What is the server tier and what it contains generally? Server tier generally which contains the data type. Data type generally which are going to hold the application data. So whenever it requires, you can store into the database. Whenever it requires, you can retrieve from the database. Example, you are doing something in a Google. Okay, you want to retrieve some information on the Google. So whenever you type some information, some keywords generally, if that matched in the Google server, it has going to be displayed. In the sense, if it is available in the database. Else, there is no
Yes.
keyword match
Yes.
like that. You will get that. So that is what
Yes.
actually server tier which holds about the application related data. Whenever it required, you can store, and whenever it required, you can retrieve the information from the database. This is about
Yeah.
client tier and as well as the server tier and what are the layers or logics which are going to be holds. Then let's we see
Okay.
two-tier architecture. We can call it as generally thick clients because client tier which we may have the two layers, right? Presentation layer and business logic. Presentation logic and business logic. Gradually, your requests are going to be increasing, but also increasing on the client tier, right? Because
Yes.
two activities it is going to be doing on the same machine. So it is going to be increasing on the burden. It is going to be increasing on the client. So that is the reason two-tier architectures we can call it as. In other words, web servers we can call it as thick clients. And client generally directly communicate to the data tier, right? Obviously, there is a burden
Yeah.
on the server tier also. So that's why the performance is going to be reducing in the two-tier architecture. In other words, the business logic which is available on the client side, there is no security for the business logic. So this is about the two-tier
Okay.
architecture. How it is going to be processing the request generally. Whenever the client make a request, so generally this request is forwarded to the server. In the server generally it will do some of the skill transactions regarding the request and generate the response. The generated response sent back to the client and client will display the output. So internally it is going to be
Okay.
follow the process like this. There is no middleware whenever we add the two-tier architecture, otherwise web servers, right?
Okay.
So there is
Yeah.
no middleware till that point. So then what I need to do? So let us we see in detail web server architecture generally. See, this is what client generally where the users can raise their request and which is forwarded to the web server generally. See, web server basically what it will do, take the request and checks about the request whether it is a static or dynamic request. If it is a static request, it manages from the web server only, and if it is a dynamic request generally, which is forwarded to the application server or different servers. Okay, depends on the requirement,
Okay.
and that only it will do.
Okay.
So internal architecture this is actually, and if it is a static request and send back to the client, and client will display the output. So this is about that web
Yes.
server architecture of the web server generally. Then how it is going to be communicated in the web server generally by using the two protocols. One is HTTP or HTTPS. HTTP or HTTPS, these two are a request or a response protocol which is used to transfer or convey the information between the or on the internet or internet. So in other words, generally
Okay.
HTTP uses the by default 80 port number, HTTP uses the by default 443 port number. If you want, you can change those default port numbers. In this way,
Okay.
they are going to be communicating the web servers generally. So what are the important points about the web servers? The first point, web server follows the two-tier architecture. Second point, web server does not provide any functionality. Simply it is providing the environment in which the server-side programs can execute and pass back the generated responses. Right? And web server generally typically returns the static content only. So those are the important points about the web server generally. So
Okay.
what kind of applications it supports web server generally? It supports only the web applications, right?
Yeah.
All the web application code generally which are going to be stored and managed in the web container. What is the web container generally? Web container generally which are going to be holds or host the web applications which is designed by using the servlets and JSPs. That is what we can call it as
Yeah.
web container. Let us we see how it is going to be configuring web servers. This is what actually you can able to configure like this. Let's we see what are the popular web containers which are available in the market generally. Apache Web Server from the Apache Corporation, Internet Information Web Server from the Microsoft Corporation, Sun1 Web Server, earlier it was from Sun1, sorry, Sun1, now it is from the Oracle only, iPlanet Web Server, and Oracle HTTP Server OHS, and IBM HTTP Server IBM. So all these are the different web containers which are available in the market. But most of the market which is
This.
used by the Apache Web Server, yeah.
Yeah. This Sun one has been changed to iPlanet now, or
No, both are
like.
coming from the, Sun1 or iPlanet renamed actually iPlanet Web Server, which has come from the Oracle again. Both are coming
Okay.
from the
Okay.
Oracle. Both are coming from the
Okay.
Oracle only. Sun1 and iPlanet.
Okay. Okay, man.
Right. So most
And
of the market,
these are all web containers or web server. We can say it's these are all web servers, right?
yes, web servers, or in other words, HTTP servers.
HTTP. So okay.
Any doubt?
Yeah. Yeah. No. Please go ahead.
Right. So most of the market which is used by the Apache web server, like you can take it as 80%. If you work for the specific clients, like if you work for the Oracle, generally they will use the OHS, and even though they'll use the Apache also. If you work for the IBM, generally they'll use the IHS. Instead of going with the third-party web servers, they have their own web servers or web containers
Web
or
servers.
HTTP servers. And if you implement installation and integrating with the WebLogic server in Apache web server, then the rest of the things are which is quite common because this is the first web server which was evolved into the market. And rest of the web servers are web containers which are derived from the Apache web server only.
Okay.
Right. So the port numbers may be the configurations which are different, but they're quite common. Whatever we have done in Apache web server, whatever we'll able to do in the Apache web server. Okay. Right. That
Okay.
is about the web containers which are available in the market. And let us we see what are the drawbacks of the web servers generally. Let's we see disadvantages or drawbacks or demerits, whatever it is. Okay. The first
Okay.
point, web servers supports two-tier architecture. Then second one, generally the business logic, presentation logic, which loads in a single machine. That's what in a client says. Okay.
Yeah.
Web servers typically returns static or serves static content or static application only, and it supports web applications, right?
Yes.
And it defines network connection limits, that network client connection limits, okay?
Okay.
So by default 500, between 1000 requests it has going to be accept, maximum you can increase to up to 80,000 only. And that's the reason it is not a fully concurrent application. Then it does not have separate management console
Oh,
to monitor about deployed application about its performance, okay?
okay.
Like how we have in Weblogic admin console like that.
Okay.
You cannot resize connection pools dynamically. You cannot resize the connection pools dynamically whenever application required, okay?
Okay.
Because which is already written in the application code. Developer only which has
Cool.
going to be
Okay.
changes those.
Yeah.
And next, it supports mainly web servers, supports web application level clusters only. EJB level it cannot support, right?
Okay. Yeah.
It cannot support transactions. There is no code and data integrity. So why there is no code on data integrity? Because so we are, yeah, there is no security because it is not. See, if you take that application server, generally everything which is going to be stored in a single layer called in a middle layer only. But here it is not like that. At client side, it is going to be available, right? So that is the reason there is no code
Yes.
and data integrity here. There is no security and
Mm.
performance issues. So and moreover, it cannot support the dynamic applications or dynamic requests.
Mm-hmm.
So these are the disadvantages generally, okay? Or these are the
Okay.
drawbacks generally which we had. So the market which are going to be to move towards the application servers. Understood? So these are the
Yeah.
drawbacks. So due to this reason, generally they came with a solution called application server. So what is the application server and what was the first change whenever the application server came out into the market? See, application servers, these are the softwares generally which are going to be installed, in middleware. So which are going to be, host all the applications in the middleware only. In other words, application servers are act like as a, or it is providing the interface in between the client side and as well as the data side, right? In other words, these are
Yes.
the softwares generally which are going to help enterprises to develop and deploy the applications and to manage large number of applications in a distributed environment. So generally, whenever the application servers came out into the market, the first change was which follows the three-tier architecture, right? So the business
Yeah.
logic is separated from the data type to separate course called middle layer. So entire business logic generally which is going to be stored under the middle layer only. right? So then another
Okay.
important word, generally application servers which are going to be service the both static and as well as the dynamic applications or requests, and it is going to be
Yeah.
service the more heavyweight applications. Let us see what is the
Okay.
dynamic content. Dynamic content means generally these are the documents may change based on the client's request. See example, whenever you go to the ATM, you want to withdraw amount from your account, okay? Assume like
Okay.
that in your account you have the 50,000 only. So you are requested
Okay.
60,000, 60,000. So at runtime
Okay.
generally what will happen? So that withdrawal module come out into the came into the picture, and it has going to checks about your request amount is less than, then it has going to return the amount. If it is a greater than, so it throws the exception to you, right? Please enter in a specified range, otherwise it does not have the enough balance like that.
Yes.
So based on your request, it has going to be generating the response, right?
Yes.
So such kind of request, which you can call it as dynamic request or dynamic content or dynamic applications. So
Okay.
generally application servers especially which are going to be serves both static and as well as the dynamic request. It supports both containers, two containers generally, web container and EJB container. Web container we already seen. Web container generally which are going to be hosts or business applications, or sorry, web applications. It's designed and developed by using the servlets and JSPs. EJB container means generally, see in application servers point of view, I'm getting some noise from your side, Praveen.
Nice. I mean,
No,
is
okay.
it okay now?
No, a little bit comfortable. Okay, no problem. So in the case of application servers, generally EJB container, it has going to host the entire business logic. Web container does not have anything. Okay, all the business logic generally which is hosted in the EJB container only. So which are going to be designed by using the EJBs, session EJBs and entity EJBs. So it supports both two containers generally, web container and as well as the EJB container. So what is the application server architecture? If you take the, so this is what actually web container and EJB container, and application server generally which are going to be offers the following features called JNDA, Java naming directory interface, Java authentication authorization services, JMix, Java management extension, JMS, JDBC, JTA, RMI, and web services. All those features generally which is offered by the EGB container, in other words, application servers. Understood? It provides the services that support the execution and availability of the deployed applications. So this is what we can call it as applications architecture of the application server. Let's see generally, I already told you. So application server which follows the three-tier architecture. One is presentation layer and middle layer and as well as business logic layer. In other words, business logic or middle layer both are same, and data layer. In other words, database type, right? So presentation
Yeah.
layer generally which is responsible for handling the user valid or for taking the user valid request and displaying the output in a user understandable way. In user understandable way. Then coming to the next business logic or business type generally which is responsible for doing the data validations regarding the request and passing to the data type. And the data type generally which are going to be holds or stores the application related information. Whenever you want you can retrieve from the database, or whenever you want you can store into the database. This is about
Okay.
generally three-tier architecture. Let's we see how it is going to be processing the request in the three-tier architecture. Same only here I explained. This is what actually client tier, this is what web tier, this is what business logic tier, and this is what actually data tier. Are you hearing from the loudspeaker?
Yeah, I'm hearing right. I can able to
No.
hear you.
No. Are you hearing from the loudspeaker or are you hearing from the headphones?
I am hearing from the earphones. Just a second, Madhav. I'm closing the doors.
Okay.
Actually, we are near to the road. Actually, near to the road, and every time vehicles comes, that is the reason I closed the doors now.
Okay.
Windows.
Okay.
Is it okay now?
Now it is okay. It is good comfortable. There is no noise from your side. Right.
Okay.
So generally, application servers, this is what actually architecture of the application servers. In other words, actually, see, this is what client type, this is what web type, this is what business logic type, this is what data type. See, sometimes they'll ask in the interview, can you give me a brief description or brief, description about the G2W architecture? This is what G2W
Yes.
architecture generally. See, web type, client is generally which is responsible to make the client's request generally or to make the request. Here where user can raise the request generally. Those requests generally which is forwarded by using the HTTP to the web container. So web container generally it has going to be checks about the request. It is a request type. It is checks about the request type, whether it is a static or dynamic request. If it's a static request generally, which is again, no need to redirecting to the EJB container. Here only it has going to be managed and send back to the requested page or client. Okay. If it is a dynamic request, then only it has going to be redirecting the request to the EJB container. So EJB container generally it has going to be host the entire business logic regarding the request, and it will do some of the data validations regarding the request and processing this request to the database by using the JDBC, Java Database Connectivity. So in the database generally, it has going to be do or it has going to be execute some of the SQL transactions regarding the request and checks about whether the requested data is available or not. If it is available or not does not matter. So it has going to be generate the response. Okay. So that generated
Okay.
response generally is sent back to the EJB container. EJB container sent back to the web container. Generally web container sent back to the client, and client will display either it may be a output or error. So this is what
Yeah.
actually
Nice.
in internal process. All right.
Okay. Yeah.
So this is
I
our
mean, this is what the JDB, if they ask us what is the, I mean, it's generally an
no
application server architecture.
our application server architecture. See why you they can ask like this J2EE architecture means. See whenever the J2EE came out into the market, then only application servers came out into the market. So before we don't have
Okay.
actually. So that is the reason J2EE application servers or application servers both are same.
Okay.
So they can ask anyway, like what is your application server architecture? In other words, what is the internal process flow? And in other question, in another way, so what is the G2EE architecture? All are same only.
Yeah. Same. Okay. Just a little bit confusion if they ask if we don't know internal things.
Yes,
So we may
yes,
get.
that is what actually. See here also J2EE application server. See,
Hmm.
that is what actually why the enterprise version we are going to be hosting the enterprise applications only. They are going to be supporting both enterprise and web applications. That's what it is going to be serve the both static and dynamic applications. Application server.
Okay.
Right. So then after that, what are the advantages which we will be able to get over the web server generally? The first point, it follows the three-tier architecture and it is going to be improve the performance a lot. And second point, generally, so all the application servers we can call it as the thin clients because every request generally which is passed through the middle layer only to the database. So by that, what will happen? It is going to be shared the load and increasing the performance, right? So that is the reason
Yes.
application servers are called thin clients and it is providing the access to the all production databases. It supports the network connection management. It is a fully concurrent application. It does not have the network client connection limits. And it supports the database connection pool resizing dynamically. Depends on the requirement, we can able to create and we can able to resize application requirement at runtime only. And it may have the separate management console for monitoring and managing about the applications and as well as server's performance. It may have it supports the both EGB and as well as web application level clustering, right? It supports the
Yes.
transactions and JDBC, JMS and web services and all those, and it has providing the code and as well as data integrity, and it improves the performance a lot, and as well as so it supports especially two containers, web container and as well as the EJB container. In other words, it supports both static and as well as the dynamic
Dynamic
applications or request
application.
it servers. All those advantages generally which are going to be provided over there, and somewhat it is going to be achieved the reusability also. Reusability.
Reusability. Okay.
Reusability and scalability also. It is going to be providing the high scalability, right?
Scalability in the sense, Madhav, I mean,
Scale, yes,
reusability, Mhm.
yes. I'll
Scalability.
explain. Scalability means whenever workload is increased, then you can add the servers.
Mhm.
Whenever workload is decreased, automatically, generally what you have to do, you can remove the servers. Depends on the requirement, you can increase the load. You can increase the servers for managing the load. That is what actually you can call
Oh,
it as scalability.
okay.
For managing about the load generally which we are going to be so configuring the scalability in the sense increase the load. Whenever increase the load you can add the servers, whenever decrease the load remove the servers. So by that what will happen,
So,
you can decrease the project cost also,
yes,
so by
yes,
using the scalability. So that's the reason actually, so applications are also which are going to be achieve high scalability. So this is
Mhm.
about the
Yeah.
scalability, all those advantages generally which is achieved by using these. This is what scalability, okay? Increase the demands of
Yeah.
over time, right? And generally,
Yes.
so these are about the advantages over web server generally. And application server configuration you can do like this. And here we have the database configurations, depends on the requirement. Then what are the popular application servers which are available in the market? The first one, Apache Tomcat Web Application Server. See, from Apache you may have the both web server and as well as the application server. Don't confuse, okay? So
Okay, web
Apache,
servers in the sense JSPs and servlets, HTML, the front end, right? Web servers.
no, web server it is like whatever we have discussed till the point. Application server means it is like just like other application server only. It is used to host the lightweight applications. Apache Tomcat Web Application Server from the Apache Corporation. This is first application server. And second, Weblogic Application Server from the Oracle Corporation. And WebSphere Application Server from the IBM. Hello? Hello?
Clear and clear. Okay.
Alright. See the popular application servers which are available in the market. Apache Tomcat Web Application Server from the Apache Corporation. And WebLogic application
Mm-hmm.
server from the Oracle. And WebSphere application server from the IBM. And JBoss applications from the Red Hat, and it's open source again. Oracle OC4J, Oracle container for the Java. This is from again Oracle, and the SAP Network from the SAP, and Glassfish application server it is from Oracle. Earlier it was open source, now it is also commercial, and WebObjects from the Apple. Among all those application servers, generally JBoss and Apache, which is used to host the lightweight applications, Apache Tomcat Web Application Server, and so remaining the commercial application servers are two actually, WebLogic and WebSphere application server. So these two are generally competing each other, and so generally there are some a lot of differences between the WebLogic and WebSphere application servers generally. WebLogic, whenever you take the cost wise generally a bit low than comparing with the WebSphere. So like whenever you buy the license, generally in that only you will get the support regarding the WebLogic application server. But whereas coming to the WebSphere, you have to be buy separately, like WebLogic license separately, and as well as support separately. So that's what actually in that way it is having a bit know cost high. Then so WebLogic server it has going to be supports a lot of the fusion middleware products, but whereas IBM cannot actually. So we
Mm-hmm.
like this. There are some the differences between those WebLogic application server and IBM WebSphere. Up to WebLogic server, uh, uh, 9i or 9x generally. So IBM, which are going to be ahead actually. After WebLogic server, 10G and 11G came out into the market and far away from the IBM WebSphere generally. Okay. So these are
Okay.
about some generally application servers which are available in the market. There is a reason generally. So we are using the Oracle WebLogic server. Inner rows, the most of market which is used by the Oracle WebLogic server only. Let's we see generally
Okay.
what is WebLogic server and why we are using, then what are the capabilities, then what are the installer files there, then so what are the system requirements, then what are the job basics we have to see now. Okay. See, in this
Okay.
area, generally they will ask the following questions generally. The first one, what is a web server? Then what are the features of the web server? Generally, so what are the
Mm-hmm.
drawbacks of the web server? Generally, what is a thick client? Okay.
Okay.
So how you can able to communicate in the web servers? Those are some questions regarding the web server. And coming to the web application server, what is the application server? Then what are the features of the web server? And what are the advantages of the application server? Then what is a thin client? Then what is the difference
Mm-hmm.
between the web server and application server? Can you give the brief introduction about the or brief discussion about the UDW architecture or application server? So those questions they'll ask in this area, right? So this is about the first one called history of the first topic called history of the application servers.
Yeah.
So I'm just completing this one. We are just moving into the some Java basics actually. So let us see what is the distributed architecture. What is the distributed system? What is the distributed system? Hello, are you able to hear me?
Yes, I am able to hear you. I don't know. Again, it's stuck. Okay.
Are you connected using the Wi-Fi?
Now I got disconnected it.
Okay. Right, all
Now I
right.
connected only through our dongle. It's better I connect daily through dongle because these current fluctuations makes us disturbance in between.
No, your voice is not clear, Praveen. Hello?
You are saying something, right, Madhav? Mary?
No, I'm telling you what is the distributor. I'm asking what is the distributed system. Hello? Hello? Hello?
Yeah, now I can able to hear you, Madhav. Yeah.
See, the problem is from your side only. Maybe dongle also it is from the signals, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, no
Better
problem.
I do one thing. I'll better daily sessions. I connect only with the dongle. It's better
Yeah.
because we may get some power fluctuations and all. Yeah.
Yes, I think
You
you.
are saying something, no,
I'm asking
Madhav? Earlier you
question.
said
I'm asking question. What is the distributed system?
okay, distributed system. Not aware
Yes,
Madhav,
because
exactly.
you are handling the applications in the distributed environment only. So distributed environment is nothing but what generally distributed system is nothing but dividing the work among the several independent modules and which are going to be enable the following features like availability, scalability, and maintainability. See example, if you take any bank application, okay. So let us,
Okay.
I mean, let you, what I'm asking here, where it is available, the main server, it is somewhere like if you take that SBI, then somewhere like in a Mumbai or somewhere like in a Chennai, there are maintaining some data centers, right? That is what we can call it as
Correct.
main server, which is coming from there only. Then what about, in your area, still you are able to accessing, in your areas, right? How it would be possible?
Yes.
See,
Mm.
distributing the application in the sense, distributed. So all those applications they were implemented in the distributed environment, or in other words, distributed systems. There is no interconnection between those machines to the main server. All are working for the same purpose, right? For getting the high availability, right? So for reaching the
Yes.
or for handling the load and as well as more available to the clients. And scalable means depends on the requirement you can increase the load. And maintainable means generally what will happen in distributed system, any one of the machine is going to be crash. You may have another machine, right? All the application related data. Easily you can recover
Yes.
and there is no chance of losing the data also. So that's the reason generally distributed systems is nothing but what implemented. All the applications are distributed applications only nowadays or these days generally. So distributed system means divide the work among the several independent modules and enables the following features called availability, scalability, and maintainability. Right?
Okay.
Let's we
Yes.
see generally
Got.
before I'm going to be discussing about the J2W architecture, I want to discuss about the clients and as well as GB container and web container. Let's we see what is a client.
Client which sends the
Right.
which accept.
So yes, a client is nothing but what there are two types of clients actually which we have in a Weblogic server or in other any other application server generally. First one is web clients in the sense all browsers generally. Web clients generally which are going to interact through the HTTP or HTTPS whenever you can raise the request. The first the first one, right, HTTP or HTTPS you can use. Generally, normally by default whenever you raise it will take HTTP but it has going to be redirected to the HTTPS. So there are type of web clients which are available. The first one web server, second one web services. So over the HTTP. The first one generally web browsers means all browsers like
Okay.
Mozilla, Firefox, I know, Safari, all the browsers which you can call it as web clients only. See, whenever you're interacting through the
Web
web
clients.
clients,
Okay.
generally there is a need of presence web container. Okay, whenever you are raising the request from
Okay.
the clients or from the browsers, there is a need of presenting the or presence. There is a need or there is it has going to be processing the request through the web container only, right? So what is the
Yes.
client application generally? Client application means all the standalone applications, which are going to be interacting with WebLogic server through the client protocols. Example, if you take the Java, it uses the T3 protocol, and if you take the core byte, it uses the IO protocol. If you take the .NET, it uses the COM protocol, right? Client applications, client
Yes.
protocols, all the standard. So client applications, there is no need of go through the web container. Directly, it is going to be interacting with the web application server. Understood? So those are all
Yes, because they are static.
static. So standalone Java
Yes.
applications generated, they are directly connecting to the JB container. These are about the client types and how it is going to be processing the request using those two clients. Then after that, what is
Okay.
the web container and what is the EJB container? So I told you generally web container which contains the two which are going to be designing by using the servlets and JSPs. What is a servlet generally? A servlet is nothing but it is a Java program which is executing on the server side and accepting the request
Client
and
request.
generating the dynamic responses, right? So
Yeah.
generally servlet what it will do, it do not it do not generate the HTML pages, custom HTML pages. Only to use the templates only. And due to that, generally they came with
Okay.
a solution called servlets or JSPs, Java server pages. So generally, it is similar like that cluster servlet only, but it supports the HTML, the custom or as well as template HTML documents in between the Java, right? Interviewed with the Java, and it is also providing the dynamic response that is based on the client's request. Once you write the code using the CSPs, it is a portable generally. These are portable, write once and run anywhere, right? Write once
Yes.
and run anywhere. So when
And
whenever you design the programs by using write the programs by using the servlets and JSPs, generally which we can call it as web applications, which is hosted or which is hold or which is managed by using the web
web
container.
container.
Then coming to the next EJB container. So EJB container generally, EJB is nothing but enterprise Java beans, so which are going to be facilitate the distributed applications or distributed components by using the RMI, remote method invocation, which is written in the Java. So what it will do EJBs? EJBs are distributable and deployable business logic across all the clients. And generally EJB components are reused across all the application servers. Okay. See, for maintaining
Okay.
about the EJB container, EJB applications, which we may have a separate container called EJB container. So,
Okay.
interview question. From WebLogic Server 9.x supports which EJB specification? So, 2.1 EJB specification. Understood?
Yeah. Okay.
So, now I am going to the back. See, I already discussed to you what is the J2W architecture. J2W architecture means generally this is what actually whenever client make a request and which is going to be forwarded to the EJB web container. So web container generally it has going to be checks about the request. Is it going to be a static or dynamic? If it is a static, here only it has going to be manages and sent back to the requested page. In the sense, the client and the client it has going to be displaying in understandable format to the presentation logic, which is going to be displaying and in an understandable format for the client. Then, if it is a dynamic request, then which is redirecting to the EJB container which contains all the business logic regarding the request, and it has going to be executing based on the request and processing this request by using the JDBC to the database. And in the database, generally it will do some of the SQL transactions regarding the request and generate the response, send back to the client, and client will send back to the EJB container, send back to the web container send back to the client, and client will display the output. Generally, EJB container
Then
which is going to be offers all these features. Yes.
okay. Okay. And this EJB container, what exactly it does? It handles only dynamic
No,
content
see,
or
it
dynamic.
holds the it all the distributed components, enterprise applications.
Okay. Like J2E
See,
application enterprise.
JD is nothing but enterprise edition only, right? All the enterprise applications only.
I'm not exactly getting what is enterprise Java bean. Any
See,
clarity?
distributed components. What is the distributed components? Distributed system.
Distributed systems which we split into modules in which the applications can run and share the load,
You cannot split
etc.
here. You cannot split. That you have to be understand. We are going to be distributing for handling the for all the different systems. Actually, we are going to be distributing those the applications to the different machine for enabling the availability, load balancing, and as well as the scalability or maintainability.
Scalable. Oh,
So we are not splitting, we are distributing.
Distributing. Okay.
So distributing means for those distributing purpose, EJB is providing the distributor components to design like that. Web container does not, it
Okay.
is not a distributor component, right? Web application.
Yes, it's not distributed.
So EJB is a distributor component. You can design by using the EJB, Enterprise Java Beans or J2EE, all the distributed components. Those you can able to hold in this. Generally, enterprise applications generally, it's a part of all those. ER equal to
Oh,
var plus jar. All application it has going to be grouping deploy as a single deployable unit called yard. That it has going
yeah.
to be post there. So it is not like
Okay.
that without only it has going to be handling the EJB applications. It is the part of all.
Okay.
Right. That is what actually J2EE architecture. Then after
And this
completing,
one JNDA and all, these are
you'll
all
get,
extra features.
you'll get. In coming classes, you'll
Okay.
get JNDA. It supports
Okay.
all those.
Supports.
All these
Okay.
features generally after JNDA, after EJB came out into that, after J2EE came out into the market, which is going to be supports.
Okay.
Then let's be very important interview question called what is proxy server?
Yes. Exactly.
What is proxy server? Important interview question. This is. Proxy server generally it is going to be take the request and forwarding the request to the another machines, and it is also used for load balancing the system. There are two types of proxy servers which are available here: hardware based proxy server and software based proxy server. So that we will able to discuss in detail in the clustering. Okay. For time being, you can come to know what is a proxy server. Important interview question, please. What is
Okay.
proxy server?
Proxy server.
Then after that, what is a firewall? Another important interview question. What is firewall?
Firewall.
So can you tell me according to your knowledge what is firewall?
Firewall restricts some of the requests to display to the front end users, like end users. Something, suppose for example we cannot access some of the URLs in which we need to break the firewall. We need to
See,
break the
Praveen, I am suggesting one thing to you. No need
okay.
to use regular words actually. Use whatever you're working in that. Okay. That real
Okay.
time words you have to be used while you're framing the sentences. Okay. See,
Okay.
the meaning which remains the common, but if you are not telling in a real time format, so it be generally go in a different way interview. Right. So what is a
Yeah.
firewall?
Yes, ma'am.
What is a firewall generally? Firewall, which is nothing but it has going to be provides filtering, authorization, and authentication services, and it is act like as a proxy servers also. So what is authentication and what is authorization? Okay. See,
Okay.
authentication first I will discuss. Authentication means generally assume like that some X person you may get job in some XY XMS company. Okay. Then
Okay.
every day he wants to get into the company. What he wants to provide generally,
Username, obviously that user, and he
then
will the
identity of that person,
identity.
right? Identity of that person.
Yes, ID
In the
card.
sense,
Correct.
authentication means who are you, right? Authentication means
Yes.
who are you.
Who I
In
am.
the sense, you have to be provide about your identity. Once it is matches, then it is allows, right? That is called, we can call it
Yes.
as authentication. Coming to the authorization, generally authorization means after somebody get into the company, they cannot sit anywhere, they cannot do any kind of activity, they are designated somewhere. Example, if you take us, so you are the middleware administrator. Okay. We are the middleware
Okay.
administrator, go to the middleware team, sit there, whatever the work is designated, you have to do that only. In the sense, what you want,
Restricted. Restricted.
what you want.
Okay.
Authorization
Okay.
means it has going to be, allow to access the services based on your role. In the sense, what you
Okay.
want. So to filtering those services generally which are going to be use the firewall. Firewall is nothing but filtering, provide the filtering, authentication and authorization services. Clear? The
Okay.
moment
Yeah. Clear.
the moment you give you this answer, immediately they will ask what is authentication and what is authorization.
What is
So ready,
authorization? Yes. Yes.
you have to be ready with
Yeah.
this answer also, right?
Yes. Yes.
This is about the firewall. This is about some WebLogic server or some topology about the WebLogic server. Then after completing that, I am moving into the other one called what is protocol and what type of protocols we are using generally. What is a protocol? A protocol is nothing but what you know. It contains some set of rules, okay, which do communicate
Yes.
two or more entities over the network, okay. Example, see, whenever somebody wants to learn some foreign languages, so in the sense they want to know before, before they are communicating efficiently with another person, so they need to know all the rules, right? In the sense grammar. Similarly, like that here also, whenever you want to communicate one entity to the other entity or one computer to the other computer, so one client to server, generally the protocol which follows the some set of rules. So right, what are the protocols which we
Yes.
use generally? HTTP, HTTPS, SMTP, in the sense simple mail transfer protocol, SNMP, simple network management protocol, FTP, SSH, SCP, Telnet, UDP, IIOP, RMI, and T3. All these are networking communication technologies or protocols. Right. Let's we
Okay.
see what is the network communication technologies or what are the network communication protocols generally. See, whenever client wants to connect with the WebLogic server by using those standard networking communication protocols, example TCP/IP and UDP protocol, WebLogic server listens for the connection request at the network address that can be specified as part of the URL. Okay. So that is the reason
Okay.
we can call it as network communication, protocols. Let's we see the first one, HTTP, so which is going to be handled the web request. So, but without security, right? HTTPS means
Yes.
whatever it has going to be handling in the
Secure.
HTTP, but the same thing it has going to be handling, but over the security. And T3, very important into your question. What is the T3 protocol? Very, very important into your question. So T3 protocol generally, so it has going to be enables for the Java to Java connections, which multiplexes ANDA, JMS, and EJB, RMI, GDBC, and other WebLogic server services over a network connection. In the sense, you can access those services by using the T3 protocol in the WebLogic server over the network connection. So that is what we can call it as
Okay.
T3 protocol. Important integration. And the T3S means generally, see, this is normal way of communicating, and this is over the security. So HTTP, T3 both are same only. It is client specific protocol. This is a standard protocol. Okay, we'll use only in Java T3
Okay.
protocol. RMI generally
Okay.
remote method invocation, which facilitates the distributed applications. And another important intro question, IIOP. What is the IIOP protocol? It's important protocol again. Right. Internet
Okay.
Inter ORB protocol, which is used by the CORBA, enabled Java clients to execute the WebLogic RMI objects over the IIOP. So for that reason, we are using the IIOP in WebLogic. And IIOPS generally over the security. And SOAP is the protocol generally whenever you want to send and receive the messages, like web services. So we'll use the SOAP protocol. So these are all the network communication protocol we'll use in the WebLogic over the network. Understood?
Yes.
What is
Okay.
the WebLogic server generally? WebLogic server is a enterprise application server, G2W application server, so which is going to be installed in the middleware. In other words, it is providing the interface in between the client tier and as well as the data tier. It supports the two containers generally. One is web container, second one is application or EJB container. So web container generally it is going to host the web applications. In other words, it returns the only static content only. And EJB container generally which returns the dynamic applications. In other words, dynamic request. So that is about the web logic. Understood? What is web logic?
Understood. Yeah.
Then let us we see history of the web logic server.
Okay.
See, during 1991 around like that, there was no WebLogic server. We have T3 server. We had T3 server.
T3 SaaS.
Earlier, generally after that, which was acquired by the WebLogic company, and which becomes again WebLogic application server.
Okay.
So later, generally, which is acquired by the BEA systems. BEA systems, which becomes again recently, which is acquired by
Oracle.
Oracle. Then later, it is become like Oracle.
Oracle WebLogic Server. WebLogic Application Server. Yes.
Yes, this is about the history of the application WebLogic server. Okay.
Server. Okay.
So then after completing that, I am moving into the other one called capabilities of the Oracle Weblogic server. So what are the capabilities that going to be provides? Okay. So from other application server. So let us we see before that I want to discuss about the WebLogic server versions actually.
Okay. Capabilities in the sense, what are the advantages
Yes,
or
everything.
capability? Everything. Okay.
Advantages and what's the difference between the
So,
WebLogic server, other application servers, everything will get.
oh, okay. Okay.
WebLogic application server versions.
Hmm.
See, WebLogic server was exist from 2.0, 3.0 versions onwards, but it was really exist after WebLogic server 7 version onwards, right, in the market. That's the
Yeah.
reason we are considered from WebLogic server 7 also. WebLogic server 7 only. 7.x, 7.0. So it was released in 2002.
It's a hard cake that time actually when we are
Yes,
out of the BTech.
yes.
Many of them
WLS
are friends. Mhm.
8.x and 8.1 version.
This is after acquiring BA, it converted. I mean,
Yes,
version
yes, yes.
7.8 is BA, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
WLS 9.x. Then from 2007 or 6, I guess, it was acquired by the again Oracle.
Oh,
9.0, comma 9.1, comma 9.2. This is what 9.x, okay?
okay.
WLS 10G or 10.x. So 10.0, comma 10.3.0. WLS 11G or 11.x. 10.3.1 to 10.3.6 up 11G, okay?
Okay.
WLS 12C. C for cloud computing, G for grid technology. Sometimes
Okay.
what is C, what is G, that is also will ask in the exam.
Yeah. Yes. G is for grid technology.
G for grid technology, C for it has going to be supporting the cloud computing.
Cloud. Cloud computing. Okay.
12.1.1 to 12.1.3. This is what it is version actually. All these are the WebLogic server versions. Okay. See,
Okay.
the stable version is now in the market 11G, and we'll able to see the and you can will able to see how you are going to be installing, what are the differences, everything you will. It is look like 12C only, but stable version 11G. Some of the things which are not available in the 12C, that's the reason I'm going with the 11G. Okay. Some
Okay.
installations, console mode installation, which was not in the 12C, both in WebLogic and as well as the domain configuration. Some of the things which was not there, that's the reason we'll go with the 11G, and easily you can able to manage with the tools. I will discuss everything in 12C, right, while we are doing the
Okay.
11C. So this is about the
But
WebLogic server.
yeah, Madhav, but this one we can say that we are doing with WebLogic 11G now
No,
because
no, no,
Proxy
12C.
they may.
You can make it 12C. There is no difference. I'm telling.
Okay.
You can able to download 12C also. You can start working on, but some of the installation was not available, which was removed actually. See,
Okay.
it's like a console mode installation of the domain creation, which was removed, and WebLogic
Okay.
installation also, which was removed. You don't know, right? Whenever you will keep the lower version, some environments, if you will go over there, they don't have the 12C. They are still in the 11G means. That time you may get confused. Is there any method like that?
Yeah.
That's the reason I'm going with that.
Yes. Yes. That way, that will be. We really may get confusion when we
Yes,
go for the real time. Correct.
yes, yes. That's the reason I'm going with this, and I will able to explain with this. See,
Okay.
up to WebLogic server 10G, which was normal application server. After WebLogic server 11G came out into the market, it is a part of the Oracle middleware portfolio. Let us we see. So, Oracle WebLogic server 11G onwards, it is a part of the Oracle middleware portfolio. It supports all the production databases like Oracle DB2, all the production databases. And also WebLogic server, it has going to be supports the following platforms. Not only it has going to be supports Sun JDK, it has going to be supports the JRocket JDK as custom JVM, and it supports the commerce server, it supports the WebLogic integration, it supports the web center, it supports the WebLogic workshop, and as well as SOA, BPM, OSB, And in WebLogic server, it has going to be provide the native integration capability like Corba connectivity, complex connectivity, IBM Web M2 connectivity, and J2W architecture, and a native enterprise, JMS messaging, and WebLogic Tuxedo connector. All these native integration capabilities which is provided by the WebLogic server. See,
.NET interoperability in the sense,
complex,
what should be
complex
HTML?
connectivity.
Okay.
No, interoperability means
Complex.
you can integrate with this, integrate with the WebLogic
Okay.
service. Example,
Which one? Which?
MQ is a different one.
This one .NET in the sense that's a separate technology, right? That
Designing,
is.
no. Designing in the .NET interoperability. Interoperability means what? You know,
Oh,
not only you can manage with Java, you can interoperating in between the other services also by integrating.
okay.
So then, and also WebLogic server, it has going to be facilitates. You can protect the security. You can provide the security at the domain level, and as well as whenever it required, you can go with the application specific also, right? Then
Okay.
coming to that, it has providing the code integrity and and as well as data integrity, and the cost wise it is a bit low than when comparing with the other application servers, and it is also supporting the following components actually: enterprise grid messaging, JMS, JRocket, Oracle Coherence, and Oracle Coherence Server and Coherence Cluster, which are used for improving the performance generally, and Oracle
Okay.
Toplink and Oracle WebLogic Server Web Services and Tuxedo. All these components which are going to be support. After WebLogic Server 11g came out, it has going to be support all the open standards. Okay, all these are the open standards which is supported by the Oracle WebLogic Server. So these are about the capabilities about the Oracle WebLogic Server. Okay. Then
Okay.
another important entry question we need to be come to know from this table at least you will get one or two questions. Even you already write the some certification, right? So from this you can
Oh,
able to get
yeah.
at least one question actually. See, this is what standards, this is what WebLogic server versions and version compatibility. See example generally WebLogic server 12 supports which JDK 7.
Seven.
And in this how they will ask the question WebLogic server 12 is certified by the which Java specification?
JDK 7.
And WebLogic Server 12 is certified by the which JDBC specification?
4.0. Okay.
I told you, right? WebLogic Server 9.x supported certified by the which EJB specification?
2.1. Yeah.
See, similar like
Yes.
that, all questions you will get from this table, all the
Okay.
version compatibility. Whenever you are keeping in the resume also, you have to be check about the version compatibilities about all the JDK, J2SC, JSPs and all those servers in your environment. While you are keeping the environment, you have to be check about. You cannot keep like that incompatibility. By showing that, they can come to know who are taking the interview. This person having the real time knowledge or not. Even though you are in real time, you are keeping like that, they won't believe you. That is the
Yes,
reason.
yes, yes.
So this
That's.
is what this is
Mm.
important actually. You just go through this a table.
Mm.
This is about all the version compatibilities and Java and as well as the WebLogic server
Mm.
versions. Then after that, I am moving into the other one called types of installers. Okay. There are four types of
Okay.
installers which are available in the WebLogic server. The first one, OS specific installer file. OS,
Specific installer file.
then now you can come to know all these things. The first one, OS specific. OS
Okay.
specific installer file means generally which is depend on the platform. This kind of installer files. Okay. Example, whenever you're installing in the Linux, you can download the Linux file only regarding the WebLogic. Whenever you're installing the WebLogic in the Windows, you can download only Windows related file. In other words, 32-bit installer files. Okay. Example,
Okay.
WLS 1036 underscore win 32.exe and WLS 1036 underscore Linux 32.bin. So what is the advantage of the OS specific installer files generally? GDK which is pre-packed with those installer files. Okay, no need to be installed the Java.
Okay.
But what is the prerequisite to set up the WebLogic server environment? Java is the prerequisite. For these installers, which is already pre-packed with those installer files, directly you can start the installation, right?
Okay.
But OS specific package install 32-bit installers which support 4 GB RAM only, right? That is limited to that only. That is disadvantage actually.
Yes.
Then there is a reason which we may have the other installer files called generic package installers. So in other words, 64-bit installers which are going to be packed into the .jar file. Okay. So example
Okay.
WLS 1036 underscore generic .jar. See, which is irrespective of the operating system or irrespective of the platform.
Okay.
Irrespective of the platform. So, in the sense which is not depend on the platform generally, right?
Yes.
So whatever it may be, whether you are installing the Solaris, you are installing the Linux, or you are installing the Windows, does not matter. The file should remain the same. But what is the disadvantage in this, which does not pre-pack the JDK with this installer file? So we need to be download the Java first, depend on the compatibility, and install and set the class path. Later we need to start the installation of the WebLogic server. That is OS
Okay.
specific installer. And third one generally upgrade installer. Upgrade installer file.
Install. Okay.
So generally upgrade installer what it will do whenever you want to upgrade from lower version to higher version, right? From 10G to 11G whenever you want to upgrade, then that time you can able to download the upgrade installers and you can upgrade from lower version to higher version. So then the last one WebLogic server developers also was there, right? So for them we may have the
Yes.
separate installer file distribution installer. Distribution
Mm-hmm.
installer file, which are going to be packed into the .zip file. So these installer files is downloaded by the developer and they are working on it, okay, for developing the portal development, for designing the portal.
Okay.
Let me see all they are available or not. Go to the Oracle downloads, how to
Okay.
download the WebLogic server to your local machine and show it.
Okay.
Downloads, middleware, okay.
First, we need to download Java, Madhav. First, we need to
If you are
download Java.
installing, if you are installing on the generic, installing in a 64-bit, you have to download the Java also,
Okay.
right? See downloads, then go to the middleware and then go to your WebLogic server tool. See, I
Mm-hmm.
told you the distribution installer file home for developers. Able to see the first
Yes.
one.
Distributors. Yeah. Installers for developers. Yes.
Yeah, this is 32 bin. This is nothing but OS specific installers. And if you go down,
Okay.
you may have that. See, generic installer file. Generic. Able to see?
Yeah. Yes.
See here you may have that, accept this license agreement, you can sign up for the Oracle account, okay? Then later only it is allowed. You can download any, either
Yeah.
maybe a 12C or 11C, but you can download both actually. Go to the 10.3.6 and you can download here, this one, okay? WebLogic
Okay.
server and coherence. Click on it. So it is going to be asked for the username and password to sign up. You already there and click on sign in. So it is going to be installing like this, okay?
Oh, okay.
And sorry, downloading to your local machine. Clear?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So this is about the OS specific, installer types. Then after completing that,
So.
so we'll see to set up the Linux environment generally. To set up the Linux environment. To set up the Linux environment generally, we need to be download the VMware first, right?
Okay.
VMware or Oracle VirtualBox, whatever it is, but VMware it will give a bit compatible, okay? VMware
Okay.
8.02, you can download any version. Then after that,
Mm.
second one, Red Hat Linux. So 6.0 ISO file, either it may be 32-bit or 64-bit, does not matter. So after that, you can set up. See, after
Okay.
you, VMware installation is quite simple. You just double click on it. It is going to be asked next, and you can do it like that. After finishing the VMware, so you will get the icon like this,
Mm-hmm.
right? VMware workstation. Double click on it. It will open like this, okay?
Okay.
You'll get the following options.
Okay.
Create a new virtual machine, and you already created that virtual machine. You can open it. We don't have, right? So click on create a virtual
Yes.
machine. And see typical and custom, you can choose anyone. Click on next and click on next. See here, you can browse the ISO file, right? Red Hat Linux ISO file. Where do you have, right? You can browse
Yeah.
in your local machine and click on next. You have to be provide the username. Generally, for remembering purpose, I'm providing everything same only. Linux, Linux only. If you want, you can give different names also, right?
Okay.
Root password.
Yes.
This is root username and root password. And click on next.
Okay.
And where you want to store that Linux, you can browse. By default, it is going to be stored Linux under the C drive.
See that. Okay.
You can browse and WLS VM. Under that Linux is going to be installed. If it does not give any directory, it is going to be installed on the drive only, direct. Click on next.
Okay.
Select the process configuration to. Click on next. RAM. Generally 1 GB is enough. Generally you can take 2 GB if you have more memory. Okay. Click on
Okay.
next. And no need to change anything. Click on next. Click on next. Click on next. Click on next. By default it will take the 20 GB hard disk. No need to be changed that one.
Okay.
Click on next.
Okay.
Click on next and review the summary and click on finish button. It has going to be started installation. It will take 10 to 15 minutes time. Then after that you will get like this. And you can enter the username and password and log into the Linux. Okay.
Okay. Mm.
So this is about how we are going to be setting up the Linux environment. So I am stopping here today.